something's changed in the water in podcasting. People really identify as a Hannah or identify as a Sarah. That's when I had the idea for Big Small Talk. This is what Dome is doing. People felt very proud to say, I just don't listen to the news. I think I had a real fear of like feedback. They're waiting for a fuck up. You will fuck up. Oh my God, I'm getting cancelled. The YouTube bros are after me.
What performative male traits give you the biggest ick?
Ooh, there is one thing I can do. It's compartmentalize. That was like an out-of-body experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trying to get cancelled. I'm kidding.
Wait, no, I'm ready now. Okay.
Okay.
You're listening to In the Dome with Sophie and Belle, two podcast fans turned founders building the home for podcast communities.
We're taking your favourite hosts out of the studio to unpack why they got started, the fandom, the stories, and the connections that make podcasts so powerful.
So powerful that we decided to build a company around it.
Let's get into it.
Before we get into it, we want to say a quick shout out to all our Domies for getting behind the podcast and Dome Fest. We really appreciate all the support.
You don't want to miss a thing, so make sure to jump onto our socials at Home of Dome and join our waitlist at homeofdome.com to stay in the loop.
Once again, we're at the beautiful Arm's Length, and today we are in the Dome with co-host and producer of Big Small Talk, Sarah Adams.
Sarah is the creative mind behind some of Australia's leading podcasts and one half of Big Small Talk, the podcast that covers everything from the serious to the frivolous, all in one place. I feel like I nailed that.
Absolutely.
Sarah, welcome to the Dome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Love you girls. This is my little social media queen, Soph.
And that's what I'm known as. Belle, what can we expect from this episode?
We get into Sarah's early career in media and the BTS of BST and how Big Small Talk came about. We also get into the power of storytelling, community, and where the industry is heading.
And I don't think there's any better way to start a conversation with you than asking the most important question, which is, were you a drama kid?
Obviously.
Obviously. Why obviously?
I just feel like I
give.
give that energy. I think I did my first like Kids Up Front holiday camp when I was like 5.
You did Kids Up Front?
I did Kids Up Front.
I did Kids Up Front.
Yeah. Anyone that's worth anything now does Kids Up Front. I was actually reflecting on this with Mum the other day. I used to practice a song. Can't sing. It was Reach by Gabrielle. It's from the Bridget Jones Diary soundtrack. And I used to go around and compete in like mall talent shows, thinking I would get like scout. No, I was like a really annoying kid. Also, my drama teacher, a true character, like every drama teacher is the one that also put me onto journalism. I was like convinced I wanted to be like a director or something like that. And he was like, no, you're a journalist. And I was like, you're right. What have I been doing?
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. And that's why I wanted to ask the drama kid question, because I feel like it gives good context into the storyteller and creative that you've become. Like you gave some, the drama teacher makes a lot of sense. Are there any things besides that the listeners need to know about you in your early years that have helped shape you into this storyteller that you are today?
I would say there's quite a clear pipeline for a lot of girls, I think. But if you can combine drama kid with like eldest daughter, I want to be a humanitarian lawyer and change the world, you kind of, it ends in this.
Yes.
I've discovered.
The humanitarian lawyer to storyteller pipeline.
Yes, which is like I want to tell stories that I care about. And like I just care about people and I feel very connected to that. And then I want to add a bit of dramatic flair to it. And you get a podcast, apparently.
Yes. Is that the why? When you think about, why content, why storytelling, why journalism? Does it go back to that eldest daughter, early stage?
I think so. SJ was my name back at school.
Yeah.
And they'd joke it was like SJ for social justice because I was like constantly trying to give a speech in assembly. I was constantly trying to like run things on the side. My mum always did that. Even just experiences I had growing up and like good and the bad of the trauma of childhood, you feel like very like, I want to use this for something better, I think.
I mean, you've definitely found your way. You have worked across some of Australia's biggest podcasts. You've got Inspired, Unemployed, Two Broke Chicks. I would love to learn a little bit more about your creative process and how you've worked across these shows. How do you come up with that vision and approach there to storytelling?
Every show is so different. Like it's a completely different ballgame how you produce and develop a show. When I first started, it was in radio. And I think that was a really great starting point for anyone that wants to get into producing. Go do morning radio because it is chaos and it's live and you have to think on your feet. You're also working with talent that's like they're veterans. They've been in the industry. They're from a different era and their expectations are very different. If I didn't have that initial foundation, I don't know if I would have been able to translate it as well to podcasting. Working in that and then jumping across to Inspired was so different because they were brand new.
Yeah.
They'd never been on mic before. And there's something about storytelling it is quite innate to people. Like you can either really spin a yarn or not. And then like you can tell when people can't. Yes. And the boys could, but it's so different being on mic. That was amazing for me because we were both new then and we were both figuring it out together. It's so funny, especially because I was coming from working with some big names to then working with these boys that are also big names, but you know, this was 7 years ago. They were just so happy to take any advice I gave them. Anything I gave as direction, they were like, oh, thank you so much. We'll implement that. And they were like so willing to go home and practice and put the time into it. That helped me just with confidence. I knew we just had like a trust with each other. But telling a comedy story is so different. And that was new to me. And so much of it is timing and being as punchy as we could.
Totally.
And we were so aware of like, attention spans being quite short, that we developed this structure that was 4 different segments. So it was like 4 different stories every episode with like a music sting in between. We would have them record for like 30 minutes and we'd edit it down to 10. Insane editing process on that show. Yeah, we just like would try and make it as entertaining as humanly possible for 10 minutes. So there was not a breath that wasn't necessary, especially the first year or 2. That just taught me a lot with like timing and editing side of things. I was in that comedy space for so long and it was so much fun and I loved it so much. But I really missed that like World Vision, humanitarian lawyer part, journalist side of me was like screaming a bit. And that's when I had the idea for Big Small Talk. I didn't want to mine personal life in that one as well. With Small Talk, we've gone on to do that. But at the start, we just wanted to focus on the news. That's totally different because you're just trying to make the news as engaging as possible, but it's not comedy necessarily. So totally different shows, totally different approaches with Two Broke Chicks, or when we've done Josh Garlip, Full Credit, which is now like the Kick It Forward guys. Quite a few different shows that are all bizarre to put them in a room together. But yeah, a lot of experience.
This is not the first time you've been a guest on a podcast. In June 2022, you were a guest on Behind the Podcast with Jules and Stocks, where they called you, and I quote, a super talented producer, and I quote, legitimate podcast hosting talent, because at the time you weren't a host at that point.
No, I just started talking on Inspired.
Yeah,
so I would
okay.
kind of like if you listen to like Hamish and Andy, the way Jack would talk.
Yes.
I would talk on their show quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think it was funny because we were also just friends, especially. Sometimes it was nice to have a female voice in there. They were so young at the time, so they were like needing dating advice or this or that, or they're very open about the fact that they're not the best spellers, or they wouldn't know about history, or they wouldn't know about so many different things. So like a segment on the show was me teaching them stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. I think that showed me that I liked being on mic, and I didn't ever envision that for myself, but I'm so glad that they let me do that, and that gave me enough evidence to show I could do this, and enough support from their followers that I could then go out and do something on my own and like have some innate audience already from that.
Yeah, it really was your introduction who Sarah is in the producer role, but I know a lot of my friends were big fans of the Inspired Unemployed pods, and that's how they all remember you and the pipeline into Big Small Talk.
You would have been working with so many people just top of their game. I'm really curious, is there a piece of advice that has stuck with you that sort of impacted the way that you tell stories now?
So many people will get on a podcast and they're not actually willing to share anything about their life or share anything about their thoughts. And so it just becomes this like void conversation. You have to be willing just to say it. And then you can always edit it back.
Yes.
But just say it.
Yeah, I'm curious, even, you know, as you said, you've been doing this for 6-7 years now. I imagine 6-7 years ago, it probably would have been easier to just say it than it potentially is now, just with real social media, all that. Have you found that? Like, there is that bigger apprehension?
I think this year has been so pivotal for learning that. And I think just something's changed in the water in general with podcasting and comment sections and even just social media.
Yeah.
I think the way algorithms are being created at the moment are pushing content that like elicits a big emotional response from people, or anger, or whatever it is. I think I have become really hyper aware, and it's like a fear of always saying the wrong thing now. If you live in that for too long, you're also not going to make great content. When we started Big Small Talk, especially, we wanted people to feel like we wanted to get responses from people, get people engaged. People were really disengaged at that time. It was a time that like news was being not really spoken about on a social media platform. So it felt very like revolutionary at the time. And now I think I go back and forth, which is because the algorithms have changed so much, I also don't want to feed the monster. Like it's also trying to create a space that is positive and moving forward and not like adding to so much of the toxicity that's online right now. We're just really more hyper aware of that and how we approach stories. There is such tall poppy syndrome in Australia that they're waiting for a fuck up, and you will fuck up. Like, yeah.
Totally. I feel like that's the double-edged sword with podcasting, because on the one side, you've got that very high trust, intimate relationship with your listeners. And then the other side, they think they know you and they expect something higher than an influencer, for example, because they've got such a strong sort of parasocial relationship there. And then when you start to think about community in media and then how that impacts your work and your creative process, I think it's quite interesting. And I imagine just given the broader climate right now, it's continuous learning, and because it's moving fast.
Yeah. I mean, for context, for people that haven't listened to Big Small Talk, you kind of can't avoid it because every week will be, here's the most heinous thing that happened in the news this week.
And then here's a bit of sugar.
Yeah. And then here's a bit of sugar. You are touching on topics that are scary to touch on and to like form full thoughts on when you're still, the news is changing so quickly. To not touch on that would be not doing our job.
Totally. And like that's why you've built such an amazing audience, because people do trust you and you do stick your neck out and say, hey, here's actually our take on this and let's have a conversation and not make it taboo. So yeah, I think it's so incredibly important.
You're covering everything from the serious to the frivolous all in one place. But you do, and those who don't know, it's half politics, half pop culture. Really got to have your finger on the pulse across everything. Very hard to know what to listen to and what not to listen to. How are you managing that balance?
Yeah.
Because then you are that voice for a lot of people as well.
Honestly, I'm subscribed to every single possible news outlet. And I think a big part of it is even the ones that I don't agree with or align with, I think it's really important to not put yourself in an echo chamber as much as possible. You have to know what's going on the other side. And I think especially now with algorithms and news, there is so much bias. You want to know what everyone's saying because the truth is somewhere in the middle sometimes, well, further to the left. But you can't dismiss that entirely either. Because of the news cycle recently, it's not particularly hard to find what the stories are going to be. They really do
jump out at you.
Yeah, they really jump out at you. It's I'd love a week that I had to search a little, to be honest.
Give me a challenge.
Yeah.
How do you sort of pick those stories for each week and be like, okay, we need to strike the right balance here. We don't want it to be too heavy and draw people away, but also not shy away from the conversations we do need to have and stay true to the mission. But yeah, curious how you strike that balance.
There's stories that you're like, I don't want to talk about tax. This is so boring. But like,
really?
you got it. Really? There are stuff that you have to do, and to be able to find a way to make those stories interesting is the pride and joy of the show as much as possible.
Well.
The concept of the show is so broad that a lot of people really identify as a Hannah or identify as a Sarah. I think it's the For You page for you paging, because sometimes we'll get comments that'll be like, I want you guys to just talk about the news. Why do you keep talking about pop culture? And you'll be like, that is the point of the show. Or you'll have people that'll be like, oh, I just think the news stuff's a bit aggressive. I don't really like these takes. And it's like fun because we get everyone in this wide basket because you're listening anyway. But it is funny because the crux of the show is trying to prove that you can and you should be across both sides of things, and it doesn't take away from the other. The segments that get the most engagement are the pop culture ones because they're inherently political, all of them. You talk about
Sydney Sweeney.
The obvious one. Talk about Sydney Sweeney, and you're suddenly talking about eugenics. You're talking about racism and
rise
you're
of
talking about
MAGA, conservatism, all that.
all of it.
All that fun
and
stuff.
that's all
Billionaires
in
around the
the
world.
pop culture story, Even the ones that you wouldn't expect, like Kim Kardashian or something like that. You are now talking about women's bodies, all this stuff that is actually sometimes way scarier to touch on than talking about tax sometimes.
Totally, yeah.
So it is this balance that even the stories that seem really fluffy are like the furthest thing from it. Yeah. And then what Hannah's so incredible at is to take politics and we call it parliamentary now. And it's
hilarious.
that's also gossipy and innately pop culture-y in so many ways. Like Trump himself is a pop culture figure more than he is anything else.
Say
well,
it again.
No, he's a lot of things, but like, you know what I mean? It is, there's so much crossover when you actually zoom out, which is more than we ever expected when we started the show, actually.
The producer hat and the podcast host hat, they're different roles, and you are both of those things to Big Small Talk. Just curious how you found that transition. Is it kind of hard to get that push and pull of what requires your mind going this way to that way? How do you handle that balance?
It definitely didn't at the start. I think because producing was so front of mind, and Hannah and I met only a few weeks before we started recording, which is insane.
That's amazing.
But it also, which was amazing, but it also really helped me lead with producing because it was very much a work relationship to begin with. And now one of my best mates, and it was very quickly, to be honest, when we had the idea and when I was doing the crux of the show, I was very much just thinking about the show as its own entity. I think my goal for the show would be, you know, this show could outlive Hannah and I. The concept and the format and the like ethos of it should be able to stand alone. I've done this full time for a year now, like also wearing the social hat and the admin hat and producing and hosting, and then also trying to produce someone who's also your friend and then also trying to produce yourself. But I can't remember what I said in there because I was on mic and not like taking notes like a producer would outside. I've kind of had to look at myself and be like, if you want to grow this show, you're going to have to relinquish some control. You actually can't wear all of these hats. You're kind of doing yourself a disservice. No one can do all of that and still be able to envision and plan and like have that bright-eyed, bushy-tailed producer approach to things when you're also exhausted and you're also the one getting the feedback. And if there's a negative comment, it's like personal. Whereas when you're a producer, you're able to put a beat between it. Going into next year, it's really, really exciting because we're moving to Listnr.
Very exciting.
Really exciting. I think I need to work around other mentors and people so I can keep learning as a producer. So being in an office with people that write for Al Jazeera, write for the ABC, have produced some incredible investigative journalism, but then are also Hamish and Andy, Abby Chatfield producers. There is so much that I can learn from people there. Also, they've said you'll remain the executive producer, you can work on other shows, but mainly you can have support, someone that can zoom out when you can't. That's really exciting.
The politics of podcasting in terms of, you know, censorship and stuff, is it different to the politics of radio?
The shows I was on, it was never really going to be that big an issue because it's mainly comedy. It's mainly lighthearted, for better or for worse. They seem to have got away with a lot on it. But I also think shows like The Briefing with Antoinette Lattouf being at SCA and Abby's show have also really paved the way for just like pushing that boundary as well. When I was at uni, I was trying to get any sort of experience I could, and I got a job at SCA when I was 19 as a Black Thunder. So my job was to drive around their promo cars and hand out like beef jerky or lollies or whatever it was.
Stop it.
After my shifts come into the studios, the radio, I would just say, can I just like press some buttons and like learn from you? They started giving me shifts there, and that's how I started in radio, working at SCA in their newsroom and then their morning show and then their music show at night. Ash London, a huge shout out. She was the music show and she's the one that introduced me to Spotify, that put me in touch with Inspired when SEO wouldn't give me a job, lol. So the fact, and what's crazy is I actually pitched a version of Big Small Talk back when I was like 21, 22 and they were like, no, we don't see this. So the idea of coming back there and I'm walking around this office, like I'm like, hey Barb, to the receptionist, like I'm like, I'm back.
The walls are shaking and everyone's like looking up.
I keep like being like, yeah, I know where the bathroom is, that's fine. I love it. But it is a really nice full circle moment as well.
I'm really curious to hear about the origin story of BST. I mean, you said you only met Hannah a couple of weeks before your first record. Can you just take us back there? How did you get to the idea and what was that first record like?
Podcasting was still so fresh and no one really knew how it was going to work yet and what would stick. It wasn't as saturated as it is now. A lot of it was just an ability to throw paint at the wall and see what worked. I used to spend Fridays just thinking of podcast ideas. I've kept it.
We've got plan Bs.
Yeah, we have plan Bs. It was at a time that everyone was doing a lot of performance activism, a lot of tiles and sharing to stories.
Yes.
A lot of pressure to do that as well. And a lot of conversations about like, should we be doing this? Do people even know what they're posting? My take at the time was social media is such an important tool and people should be sharing things. But if you're sharing and you don't actually know the story behind it, you're just doing it because you feel like you should. That was kind of one thing that I was like, I want people to actually understand what's going on so they feel comfortable to talk about these things. And the other thing was, it was a time that people felt very proud to say, I just don't listen to the news. I just don't care.
Yeah.
It's not for
my
me.
thing.
It's not my thing. And I remember I'd be like, what do you mean it's not your thing? To like, I just don't care about people. Honestly, that's what I would hear. And I'd be like, that's crazy that that's become trendy to say that at the time too. I was like, there has to be a way to make this cool again. There was a lot of feelings of, oh, I should just follow a serious journalism path to be taken seriously, which means I can't be frivolous online. I knew that myself, I loved pop culture and I loved dissecting and gossiping and pink. And I was like, why can't I do both? Also, it was like a trick, because if you loved the like aesthetic pop culture side of things, then you were going to come listen because it seemed cool. But also, if you thought you were serious and too serious for pop culture, then like got you there as well. Like that was kind of the whole idea of like, how broad can we make this? Hannah came in and interviewed for a different podcast. It was actually Clues, who's one of my good friends. Hannah was super fresh. She'd only just gone full time with Cheek. She just moved to Sydney, was like, sure, I'll do this. Came in, I sat in and was like, who is that? And they were like, oh, that's Cheek. I was like, never heard of it, but I will take her for coffee.
I know who you are, but I like it.
I loved it.
And I'm interested.
We went for coffee down the road and I was like, look, I have this idea. It's been quite challenging to find someone that's like our age and knows what they're talking about with politics and has some sort of a platform that could like get this to work. The only other person I'd spoken to before was Billy Fitz, who's the Daily Oz. And she was like, you know, I'm starting a startup. Like I'm involved in a startup, but I can't tell you much yet.
Referencing TDA.
And then Hannah came along and I was like, you don't have to do this with me. I have a few ideas of who you could host this with. I just want to produce it. And she was like, no, but this is fun. We should do this together. Let's just record in the studios while we have time and see what happens. Yeah. I think Hannah and I both learned a lot from each other. I think Hannah can admit she likes a bit of pop culture now and that she likes having a bit of a frivolous conversation, and she has been into Mecca. Like, she's not terrified when I put a camera in her face anymore. For me, especially with politics, it took me a while to like find my voice and like be okay to give a direct opinion on stuff. And I listened back to some of those first episodes and I'm like, like, I'm only pop culture. There was a part of us that were playing characters at the start. I think as we've gotten more comfortable and more confident, we've met somewhere in the middle on it, which has been nice too.
So she put the idea in your head that you should co-host.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Why wasn't that idea already in your head?
For the drama kid that I was, that, you know, was doing the most to be center stage, I think I had a real fear of like feedback and like response that felt quite scary to me. And I think with producing, I could be around like the glitz and the glam of it and I could call the shots and I could be creative, but I didn't ever have to put my face to it. And I think that was something comforting. Hannah will be like, just post on Instagram, do a get ready with me. And I'm like, screaming, crying, throwing up.
Completely.
Yeah. I'm going to try and get better at all that stuff next year.
I don't know. I think you're being harsh on yourself. I think you're in front of a camera. It's go time.
Take us from that moment you had coffee. Hannah's like, hey, we should actually co-host, to then, hey, let's do our first record. What was that first recording like, and what's sort of changed since then as well?
You know what's funny? Not much has changed from the show since then. The only thing we added in after the first record was personal headlines. I got the feedback from Craig, who is a producer that I worked with, head of content at SCA for years. He also found Hamish and Andy. He has a real eye. He was so good to learn from. He was given Inspired first, and he reached out to Ash London, who I was working with, and was like, I have no idea what these boys are saying. This is a generational divide. What the fuck is going on? Do you have any younger producers that can help me translate this? And that's how I started. So I've worked with Craig for a really long time. He was like, you have to be willing to put yourself in this a little bit, even if it's just like a headline at the top so people get to know you guys as well.
It's great advice.
Yeah, which is, at the time I was like, oh God.
This is not the point though.
You're so right. Like you do have those very distinct roles on the show, obviously, and that's why it works so well. Like I know exactly what I'm going to get when I hear from both of you. But I'm also interested in behind the mic, off mic, what is it about the two of you, the dynamic that makes you such a successful duo?
Honestly, from the get-go, and the reason we were able to sound so comfortable so fast, and one thing people are always shocked, they're like, oh my God, it sounded like you guys have been friends for years.
Yeah.
We're both chronic oversharers. We
Famously.
shared enough
That'll
information in the first few days that you would think we'd spend a lifetime together. I think that is a blessing and a curse for some people, but for us it meant that the best compliment is like, God, I feel like I've known you forever. It's like, that's just because I've shared a lot.
Yeah.
And now you felt like you need to share a lot. And we've covered a lot of ground really quick. And I genuinely think that was a big part of it at the beginning. As opposite as we are, we're kind of the same. Yeah.
I love what you said before about, some listeners think they're the Hannah, some listeners think they're the Sarah. If we were sitting here with the typical Big Small Talk listener, describe them to me. Who are they?
You know what's so funny is this one is one of the hardest questions to answer because
You're welcome.
Way more broad than we ever anticipated. There are like the typical devoted cheek follower that loves Hannah and is super intelligent and switched on activist. And then there's, she's in an all for Mimi tank.
Yeah.
I
see her.
She has $40 lip gloss in her hand, but she's also kind of mean.
Yes.
And she's also is listening to the news and she does have an opinion. I think it's funny.
She knows herself.
One of the nicest things we found about Big Small Talk as well is there are so many people listening as like an activity with their mums and with their grandmas. So
Amazing.
it's like a generation, and we did not see that coming. And it's one of the nicest feedback will be mums who feel like they can talk to their younger daughters or teenage or early 20s, whatever it is, daughters. In reverse, girls our age who feel like they can now communicate and talk about things and have different perspectives when they talk about stories or like when they rehash the episode afterwards because they're coming at it from different experiences. Some of those conversations I love when I hear about them, and that is something we didn't expect but love playing into now. Yeah.
There are a lot of different listening experiences that I think a listener of BST will have across the different formats of shows because, again, if you aren't a BST listener, why? But there's Big Small Talk, there's Big Talk and Small Talk. Do you think that any particular story has resonated the most with your listeners, or is there one that stands out to you?
Small Talk has been so much fun this year.
Yeah.
And it's actually shocked me how it's sort of evolved. Like originally Hannah and I were doing it, and then Hannah was like, I'm doing politics. And I was like, I'll take Small Talk. We're going to make an interview format. And I think as a producer that made sense because it meant we could reach into audiences that we wouldn't necessarily otherwise get to. It also meant we could like platform some different voices, some different experiences, different backgrounds. And I think that was something that was really grating on me and I felt was missing from the show. So I've been really glad that Small Talk's been able to fix that in a way. Actually, the top 10 biggest episodes we ever had are now Small Talk, which is insane.
Wow.
And not something we ever anticipated. And I think there is just a loyalty from depending on who we've interviewed. It's been really interesting who has resonated as Small Talk guests and just how loyal their followings are. Celebrity Men Web Book Club, if you've ever listened to that, highly recommend.
Love
their
them.
episode popped off and they're actually now called Good Noticings.
Yeah, they do like kind of pop culture stuff as well.
Yeah,
I saw
and they're kind of
that.
like an American version of us in a way.
Yeah.
Eli Rallo, also American. She's like a Carrie Bradshaw of our time.
Totally, yeah.
Obsessed with her. But she did an episode on heartbreak and breakup, and that just obviously hits with all of us. Another one that really surprised me, but was amazing, was Dominique Alyssa, wellness influencer in Bondi and a model. Selfdom. We did an episode just talking about gratitude, the practice of gratitude and like what scientific benefits there are from that, what emotional benefits there are, the story of how she found it, which was through like something she learned from her mom and as her mom was going through cancer treatment. And it was such an incredible and heartbreaking, such a human story alongside like such a practical tool that people could then implement after the episode.
I was going to say honorable mention as well to Alison Williams. That's crazy work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Alison Williams, I'm one of the biggest Girls fans ever. I think with Girls, it finds you when the time is right. Like everyone will watch Girls.
You don't find Girls. Girls will find you.
Girls finds you.
Girls. When you least expect it.
Yes. Alison Williams is an incredible actress who was Marnie on the show. She was one of the leads in Jordan Peele's Get Out, which also is like must-watch films. One of the greatest movies. It actually is, I think, rated as like one of the top movies
Doesn't
ever.
surprise me.
When she got on the show and she was like, hi, Sarah, I just love the show, like blah, blah, blah. That was like an out-of-body experience.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm so, so excited for next year. I have this dream list of guests that just goes on and on and on.
Can you give any insight into those dream guests that you have?
Do you want my dream guest list?
I actually do.
Okay.
We do
That
we
was
love
the
a JoJo
follow-up.
Siwa dream guest in your podcast.
One is I want to give a shout out to the Pretty Informed girls. If you're not not listening or watching them on socials. They're based in New York.
Okay.
They've given us a few shout outs, but they are killing it over there. I love when people talk so fast it like scratches an itch in my brain. Fingers crossed for Dolly Alderton.
Oh my gosh. Oh, yes.
One of the best experiences ever last year
We can
was
get that.
fresh from a breakup, meeting Dolly Alderton and going for martinis with her and being like, tell me everything about life.
Yeah. And that's
That is a
unhealing.
fever dream.
It was a fever dream.
Yeah.
Louis Theroux, I would like to
Oh my
pretty much
gosh.
credit anything I've ever wanted to do in media to. Catherine Ryan, the comedian, Diary of a CEO.
Oh, my
Now I'm just being
gosh.
crazy. Now I'm
No,
just
you're
being
not.
crazy.
No, you're not.
Hey,
I'd
it's been
also
done.
like to absolutely manifest Amelia Dims.
Oh my gosh.
Chicken chop day.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
On set. On
Yes.
set too.
So everyone take a moment.
Can we add another one to that
Please?
dream list?
Grace Beverly.
Of course. You know what? I actually
Wait, don't tell me.
was at dinner with a guy the other night. I was saying that I wanted to go to the UK and I'd love to do some interviews over there. And he goes, that's crazy. I kissed Grace Beverly at a party when I was 14. I was like,
That is not
okay,
where I
so
was
do you
going.
have a contact?
So is that
to
an
her?
intro that we can work
And
with?
let me be
Can I
so
work
clear,
that
I
angle?
would be insufferable.
I would probably make that like my bio or something. I don't know.
100%.
No one wouldn't know. No one wouldn't know.
I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you what you're seeing play out across the industry of podcasting and where you see Big Small Talk evolving in that space as well.
There's a lot of question marks all the time over what's going to happen to social platforms and news on social platforms.
Yeah.
If something was to happen there, I think there is going to be a lot more emphasis on podcasting because people still need that format of news and people aren't really in traditional media in that same way anymore, especially for younger audiences. Communities and focusing on communities is going to be a really big thing because I don't think we're getting that right now is really, really important. What Dome is doing, video is the way forward. That's something we've dabbled a little bit in small talk. It's probably not something we'll be able to like come back to for a while just because Australia is a different landscape. Famously a little behind when it comes to that. Learning how to use and implement AI in ways that is beneficial and not scary. I don't have an answer to that yet. I'm just sort of aware of it. But yeah, I think there's a few big things that are going to happen in the next few years. So it's hard to tell. However, can I tell a funny story?
Please.
So I get a message from a friend yesterday. She sends me a video of one of our reels on a YouTube show, but she sent it to me with no sound. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting cancelled
it's
on
happening.
YouTube.
Oh, God.
And it was the H3 podcast. Again, if you're not in the YouTube, no, like 4 million subscribers on YouTube alone. The YouTube bros are after me. Like, what am I even
YouTube
saying in this? Turns out there was another big YouTube creator. She made a video how girls get cancelled a lot more easy than guys and used a reel that we posted a year ago explaining what Brad Pitt's kids said on Father's Day.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the reel, she goes, Brad Pitt hasn't been cancelled and neither is Ethan from the H3 podcast. It's the same. Ethan hears that and he responds. So he's playing her whole podcast clip back, which is then just playing our clip on his channel. They actually said nothing bad about us. They were actually like, I didn't know that about Brad Pitt. But then they started mocking my Australian accent. And I was like, okay, this has been a
personal.
crazy morning.
The
Thank you
ripple effect
so
of Big Small
much.
Talk.
But just looking at their numbers of like 4 million subscribers, 3,000 comments, I was like, yeah, we are a teeny tiny fish in a huge pond.
I'm sure you haven't been able to go out for like drinks with the girls at dinner and not have a BST fan come up to you and just be like, oh my gosh, I love what you do.
It's definitely happened more recently, which is so surreal. And
Yeah.
so I remember we had a bit of a rough trot a few months ago when like all the Charlie Kirk stuff happened and freight train happening at once. Yeah. And there was so many people who were like, clearly would never usually approach that were like, hey, hope you're doing okay. And I was like, thank you. I think that makes me feel worse. Thank you. I was at Paddington Markets and this like angel girl came over and just like, what a terrible week you've had. I can't even imagine what it's like to be you right now. And I look up and it's my ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend standing, just probably listening to this whole thing. And I was like, Angel, can we stand off the premises and have this conversation?
Let's take this offline. Let's take it offline. Things are going really well.
Yeah, no, I'm thriving.
I'm thriving. Thank you so
so
much.
much.
Yes, thank you so much. But no, it is like so lovely. It gives me such a shock every time.
So we've spoken a lot about where the industry is going. I would love to ask you, as an extraordinaire in this space who has just worked across all these incredible shows, For someone who is just starting out a podcast today and the landscape, what would you be advising them doing? Like, what is that playbook? How should they go about it?
Sounds so painfully obvious, but it is actually your idea. You have to actually be offering something that is different in the market. And I know that is like, duh, but
Nothing's assumed knowledge. We know that.
Yeah. Something I've learned over the years is there isn't actually transfer rate. Even if you have a huge audience, you could have millions of followers on TikTok and 10,000 listens max on a podcast, because the transfer rate is actually just not there. And I think that's really shocking and very confusing a lot of the time. I think that's something that's really tough in this space is it feels like this opportunity is only afforded to people that have a certain amount of followers or reach or whatever it is. I will always champion the idea over that because I don't actually think that's as important as people think. It's just being given the opportunity to get into the room. I have people come up to me at parties, men, every time. Hi. They'll be like, I have the craziest idea for a podcast. It's me and my best mate. We're hungover on a Saturday. We press play on the mic.
No, diva.
It is actually crazy to me how many times I've been pitched that. We're in the double digits.
Wow.
Easily. Also, a lot of girls come up being like, me and my best friend are really, really funny. You should listen to us. And that's great. If you have amazing chemistry with someone and you are genuinely really funny, fantastic. Go find an idea that works with that.
Totally.
That's the advice.
When's that point where you're like, all right, there's something here, let's lean in, or let's try a different format?
I think you have about a year or so until it's probably worth revamping in ways. And I think a lot of that is actually to come down with your PR and just getting messaging out there, trying to go on other shows. And that's why it helps to have an idea that's really clear format. So then you have an offering on your show that you can go to other shows. You have to be in it for the love of it, not because you're seeing this as financial gain necessarily.
Yep.
Even Hannah and I never expected this to ever be like my full-time job or anything. If you can create the idea and build community and then build arms to it, whether that's with a newsletter or speaking or something that just creates a universe, that's where I would focus. Like if the podcast isn't standing alone enough, then build beyond it to try and find those hooks and other ways of reaching people. But it is a lot of work and it's a passion project entirely. Yeah.
Speaking about making it a universe, I think what we love as well, and we continually go back to at the moment, is a conversation that we had with Ryan from Tony and Ryan, who made this great call about how he thinks about his community. And obviously they're an incredibly successful podcast, and the conversations they're having about, well, hey, are we a podcast with a great community, or are we a community that happens to have a podcast? And because they do such an incredible job of bringing their listeners in. So I think that just speaks so well to what you're talking about there. We wanted to play a little game that we've just coined about 5 minutes before this record called Plug the Pod. Now we're going to give you some rapid fire scenarios and you need to tell us what podcast you would recommend us listen to.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to be so bad at this.
In these scenarios.
Because I stopped listening to podcasts. Like I do listen to podcasts because I'm worried I'm going to get hit. Yes. Also, it does feel like work now. So I've tried to like give a bit of space. But let's play.
Quarter life crisis.
Gemma Spagg's The Psychology of Your 20s.
Great rec. Total disassociation with the state of the world.
Giggly Squad.
Love. Clock it. Friend is down bad post-breakup.
Call Her Daddy original episodes.
Yes, very that. Yeah.
Pre-marriage.
Yeah, we're trying to get it back out there. We're like, all right, pep in your step.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Sucker for juicy gossip.
Juicy gossip. Shameless, and by extension, everybody has a secret.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, well, that was a good play, Sarah. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, last one. You want an interesting fact to tell at a dinner party.
The rest is history.
That is so true to you.
Yes.
Our little history drama diva. That is a bit of you.
Well played.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks,
guys.
I love how you were like, oh, I'm not going to know anything.
Yeah, just like
Shameless next.
That's what you got?
I love what you said before about, not being able to listen to other pods because you don't want to have your mind swayed when you're trying to give the opinion as well, which I think is such a great point. It actually is relevant to the listener question of the day. And the listener question comes from my friend Alice, who has been a massive fan of yours since the Inspired Unemployed days. She's the one I told you about that said to me, you have like the nicest laugh. Remember our first meeting, I was like, my friend loves you and she's always loved your laugh.
Which is such a nice
so
compliment.
gorgeous.
And I really like hearing that because the other day I got an edit like some random edit. They put like a sepia tone on it, and they were like, it was like motivational. It was like from a small talk. They like put a motivational spin on it. I laugh in it, and one of the top comments was, "She laughs like Demi Lovato."
What does that mean? Like, how does one take that?
I think it's just like a One of the harshest comments I ever got was from Inspired Days. No, it wasn't harsh. I actually really embraced it. They were like, no, but that's Meryl Streep. She looks just like Meryl Streep. Didn't clarify if they meant a young Meryl Streep.
I don't think you understand. Meryl Streep is like the love of my life. My
She's an
Instagram
icon.
bio for the past like decade has been "My heart belongs to Meryl," and so like to have that compliment.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's nothing higher.
Thank you.
And you should
Thank
know
you.
that.
Yes,
And you
thank
should
you.
know that. Well, Alice loves you and your laugh. And she wants to know, actually, we usually do one question, but she had sent me about 15. So I did choose 2. First one being, because you are that pop culture go-to girly for Big Small Talk, how do you go about consuming like albums or new series, things like that, without looking at it with like your analysis eye on? And how am I going to speak about this on the pod?
Oh, if there is one thing I can do, it's compartmentalize.
Yes.
I don't seem to have that issue. Like, if I want to sit down and decode something, like I think Sabrina Carpenter is a great example of this. Okay, let's zoom out and assess this album and this album cover, and like, it's so valid. And at the same time, it can be like my number 2 album of that year.
Totally.
You can just let 2 truths exist at once with pop culture. Like, you can criticize the Kardashians and you can also watch an episode.
Kind of goes back to what you were saying about the shameless and just wanting to be in your own space. But then again, if you're a compartmentalizing queen, like, you know, you find your way, you find what works.
Yeah.
And the second question that Alice asked, which I thought was just a fun one to throw in there, what performative male traits give you the biggest ick?
Ooh,
Great cue, Alice.
fantastic cue. This is going to sound bad because I think everyone should be proud to say I'm a
feminist?
feminist. And I
Yeah.
think all guys should be able to say that. But for some reason, the guys that die on that hill the most
Tend to be
are
the
not
worst.
feminists. Like,
Yeah.
they're like the worst guy ever. Like,
Yeah.
So there is something about someone who makes that their brand that it should just be innate. We don't need to
Yeah.
make it like
It's expected.
It's just, it's expected. It's actually bare minimum.
Yeah.
You walking around being like, no, but I'm actually
Yeah. Hey,
girl
you,
power
I
to
see you.
Do you want a trophy?
Yeah, pretty sure that's just human decency. That's probably my
That's a great
number one.
answer.
Thank you.
Okay, final question we always ask everyone on the pod. If you were to have a dream meetup with all the BST listeners, walk us through it. What are we listening to? What are we yapping about? What are we doing?
This is actually a question I have for everyone else, because now that we're humming along, that we can now think about this other stuff and what else can we do for community. That is something we really want to do this year. And I think dream ideas I've had so far is like, I would love to invite people that also want to be in the media journalism space and do a bit of a panel dinner. Like, we have so many friends and guests that we've made through Small Talk and through whatever else that are like these incredible journalists that we're working with or whatever, that can just give life advice or career advice. And there's anything I love more in this world, it's career advice from someone that feels like a pearl of wisdom. I would also just love to do smaller events, dinners, lunches, for people that are like-minded and just want to be able to meet and chat.
And you know, if you needed a restaurant to do it at, might I suggest the fabulously
Absolutely.
Yeah, the fabulous dim lights below arm's length.
Yeah.
At this point.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us in the Dome. It was an absolute treat. I feel like we could just yap for hours. Like, you've just had such an incredible career, and Big Small Talk, there's huge things ahead. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where
Love
can
you,
the
girls.
listeners find you?
Big Small Talk on Spotify. We've just rebranded.
Oh.
So it's looking very
Love it.
mature and grown up. Or on Big Small Talk _ on our socials. Or Sarah Jane Adams for my personal socials, because
For all
she
the
may or may
get-readies.
not. She may or may not post. That's for me to know and for you to maybe find out.
That's all part of the mystery. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. We had the best time.
So what should the people do, Soph?
The people should jump on our waitlist at homeofdome.com to stay in the loop with all things Dome and Domefest.
And get over to Instagram and TikTok at Home of Dome and at Domefest, as we put on Australia's very first podcast fan festival.
We'll see you there. We're Sophie and Belle.
And I'm Sarah.
And we'll see you next time
In the Dome.
Did we do it together?
Yeah, maybe not.
No,
Sorry,
icky.
I got excited. Sorry, I got excited.
Wait, no, I'm ready now. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We're Sophie and Belle.
And I'm Sarah.
And we'll see you next time in the Dome. Slay. Slay.
One hit wonders.
Yeah.
Sort of our
Thank you guys.
Oh my gosh,
Very
thank you
that.
so much. This podcast was recorded on Gadigal land. We would like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional owners of this land and the oldest storytellers in the world. always was, always will be Aboriginal land.